The only thing that will ever teach someone your worth is losing you. Not your love, not your patience, not your kindness, and certainly not your tears. Only your absence. Let that sink in. The more available you are, the less they value you. The more you tolerate, the more they take. The moment you start thinking, maybe if I explain, maybe if I show them how much I care, maybe if I love harder, you've already lost. People don't learn through words, they learn through consequences. If they ignored your worth while you were giving them everything, why would they suddenly wake up just because you told them how much they hurt you? They won't, because you're speaking a language they don't understand. People don't fear losing what they think will always be there. So today, stop being the one they took for granted. Today, you disappear and you let them feel the silence. If this is your first time here, brace yourself. This is where you wake up. This is where you finally see the truth about people, about relationships, and most importantly, about yourself. Let me ask you something. Would you keep working for a job that never pays you? Would you keep waking up early, putting in extra hours, sacrificing your energy, your time, and your sanity for nothing? Of course not. You'd quit. You'd walk away and find something better. So why is it that when it comes to someone you love, you're willing to keep working overtime for free? Because they told you that love is sacrifice. They told you that if you just hold on a little longer, if you just give them one more chance, if you just prove you're different, they'll finally see your worth. But has that ever worked? Has it ever made them truly stop and say, wow, I almost lost them. Let me change my entire behavior overnight? No, because people don't realize what they have until it's gone. A woman once shared her story. She spent 5 years loving someone who never fully committed, 5 years being patient, forgiving, and waiting for them to see how loyal, loving, and irreplaceable she was. Every time they pulled away, she chased. Every time they disappeared, she waited. Every time they gave her crumbs, she convinced herself it was a feast. Until one day, she just stopped. No warning, no fight, no explanation. She disappeared. And you know what happened. At first, nothing. They didn't even notice. Then a week passed, 2 weeks, a month. Suddenly they were watching her stories, liking her old pictures by accident, sending a week, "Hey, how have you been?" Testing the waters, hoping she was still the same woman who would come running back. But she wasn't. And by the time they realized she was gone for good, it was too late. That's the truth most people refuse to accept. You don't make someone regret losing you by explaining. You make them regret it by leaving. You don't show them your worth by begging for their love. You show them your worth by giving it to someone else, or better yet, by giving it to yourself. Because the moment you stop being their safety net, their backup plan, their second option, that's the moment they start to feel the loss. Not when you cry, not when you beg, not when you send long messages pouring out your heart. No, they feel it when you go silent, when they reach for you and you're not there, when they realize that every time they took you for granted, every time they made you feel small, every time they made you question your worth, they were actually digging their own grave. And by the time they wake up, by the time they regret every second they ignored you, by the time they realize they lost something they can never get back, you'll be so far ahead, so untouchable, so unapologetically glowing that their regret won't even matter to you anymore. So say it with me. I am done proving my worth. Say it out loud. Say it to yourself. Say it to the universe. Because what's coming next is going to make sure they never forget what they lost. Number 1, wake up. You've been playing a losing game. Look at yourself. Look at what they've turned you into. You were once full of life, shining with confidence, moving through the world like you owned it. And now you're exhausted, tired from carrying the weight of a love that was never returned, worn out from proving your worth to someone who never deserved it in the first place. How many nights did you sit by your phone, waiting for a message that never came? How many times did you lie awake, replaying every conversation, wondering what you did wrong? And while you were drowning in your pain, what were they doing? Sleeping peacefully, laughing, living their life like you never existed. Because in their mind, they never had to fear losing you. You were always there. And why wouldn't they think that? Society has trained you to believe that love is about sacrifice, that you should be patient, understanding, willing to hold on even when it's breaking you. They told you that if you just waited a little longer, loved a little harder, proved yourself a little more, they'd wake up and see your worth. But has that ever worked? Let's be honest. When has someone who took you for granted ever changed because you begged them to? When has someone who ignored your love ever suddenly realized your value just because you explained it? Never. Because love that has to be begged for isn't love. It's emotional labor. They never feared losing you because they never had to. You were always there, ready to forgive, ready to understand, ready to suffer just to keep them in your life. But real love does not make you suffer. If you have to beg for their time, it's not love. If you have to remind them to respect you, it's not love. If you have to convince them to choose you, it's not love. The world won't tell you that. They'll tell you to be strong. But what they really mean is to be silent, be patient, be willing to endure pain, because they don't want you to see the truth. The truth is that the strongest thing you'll ever do is walk away. It hurts, doesn't it? You wanted them to be the one. You built a dream around them. You thought if you just held on a little longer, they'd finally see you the way you always saw them. But holding on to someone who's actively letting you go is not love. It's self-betrayal. So what now? First, let it burn. Let yourself feel it. Not just the loss of a person, but the loss of the illusion you created around them. That's what's truly breaking you, not who they are, but who you thought they were. Then you rise, not by running back, not by sending one last message, not by waiting for closure that will never come. You rise by disappearing. You make them feel your absence. You leave them with nothing but silence. And let me tell you something. A person never truly regrets losing you while you're still there. They only regret it when you're gone, when you stop answering, when you stop fighting, when they reach for you and find nothing. That's when it hits. And by the time it does, you won't even care anymore. Because while they sit there drowning in regret, scrolling through old pictures, wondering if you've moved on, you'll be too busy rebuilding yourself into someone they can never have again. And trust me, they will feel every second of it. Number 2, stop handing out your love like it's free samples. The person who cares less holds the most power, and right now, they have all the power. Not because they're better, not because they're smarter, not because they're more valuable, but because you have given it to them. Every time you answer that late-night text, knowing damn well they only reach out when they're bored, every time you pick up the phone, pretending this time it might be different, every time you sit there overanalyzing their words, replaying conversations, searching for a sign that maybe, just maybe, this time they actually mean what they say, you are giving them free access to your energy, your kindness, your time. You are treating them like a priority when they have never once treated you like one. Here's what you need to understand. People don't suddenly wake up and value what they've spent months or even years taking for granted. They only value what they fear losing, and if they don't fear losing you, they will never respect you. And don't lie to yourself saying, "But they do care. I know they do." Oh, really? Where was that care when you were crying yourself to sleep, feeling like you weren't enough? Where was that care when they ignored your messages but had time to scroll through social media? Where was that care when they made plans with their friends but never had time for you? Exactly. Stop making excuses for them. Stop convincing yourself that they just need time, that they have issues, that they don't know how to express their feelings. Number. If someone truly values you, they won't put you in a position where you have to question it. Read that again. You are spending hours thinking about someone who barely spares you minutes. You are draining yourself mentally, emotionally, even physically, trying to decode their mixed signals, their half-hearted apologies, their bare minimum effort. And for what? Because love is supposed to be patient, because love is about sacrifice. Number love is not supposed to feel like exhaustion. Love is not supposed to feel like a race you're running alone while they stand at the finish line watching. Imagine this. You have a job that pays you pennies but expects you to work overtime. They call you in on your days off, make you stay late, keep piling on more responsibilities, but never give you a raise, never acknowledge your effort, never appreciate how much you give. Would you stay? Would you keep showing up every day, working yourself to death for a job that does nothing but take from you? No, you'd quit. So tell me, why are you still showing up for a person who has never paid you what you're worth? Why are you still offering your loyalty, your patience, your love for free? And before you say, but love isn't about keeping score, let me stop you right there. You're right. Love isn't about keeping score, but love is about reciprocity. It's about effort. It's about someone choosing you just as much as you choose them. And if they're not choosing you, then why the hell are you still investing in them? Stop giving discounts on your worth. You think if you just love them a little harder, if you just prove you're different, they'll wake up and realize how much you mean to them. That's not how it works. The moment you make it too easy, the moment you give without expectation, the moment you make them feel like no matter what they do, you'll still be there, that's the moment they stop valuing you. That's the moment you go from being someone they desire to someone they assume. And let's be real, they already know you love them. They already know that if they call, you'll answer. That if they disappear and come back, you'll still be waiting with open arms. So where's their urgency? Where's their fear of losing you? Exactly. They don't have one because you've made yourself too available, too predictable, too easy to reach. So it's time to change the game. You don't beg them to see your worth. You show them, and you show them by disappearing. Cut them off and watch how fast they realize what they lost. Watch how fast they panic when you stop responding. Watch how quickly they start lurking when you stop posting about them. Watch how confused they get when their usual tactics, the lazy "I miss you" texts, the breadcrumbing, the half-hearted attempts at keeping you around, stop working. That's when they'll feel it. That's when the reality of losing you will hit. But by then, you won't even care, because while they're busy wondering what happened, wondering why you're no longer chasing them, wondering who else has your attention, you'll be too busy rebuilding yourself into the kind of person they will never have access to again. And trust me, they will feel every second of it. Number 3, silence speaks louder than begging. You've talked, you've explained, you've poured your heart out, thinking if you just find the right words, they'll finally get it. But they won't. They never did. Because people don't hear what they don't want to understand. You process pain immediately. The second they hurt you, you feel it. You overthink, you analyze, you try to make sense of it. You feel the loss as soon as they pull away. But them? They don't feel the loss while you're still there. They feel it when you're gone. That's why they're fine right now. That's why they're out living their best life while you're lying in bed, broken, wondering how they could move on so easily. Because to them, you're still an option. They don't feel urgency. They don't feel panic. They don't feel the loss yet, because they still believe you'll be there when they're ready. And every time you reach out, every time you answer their call, every time you leave the door open, you prove them right. Listen to me. They will not respect your tears. They will not respect your explanations. They will not respect your pain, but they will respect your silence. And I know you want to talk. I know you want closure. I know you want to send that one last message, hoping this time they'll finally understand the damage they caused. But you won't, because you are done explaining yourself to someone who was never listening in the first place. You don't make them regret losing you by crying. You make them regret losing you by disappearing. There was a woman once who spent years chasing someone who never truly committed to her. She forgave them, she waited, she fought for them, and they never changed. Until one day, she stopped. No warning, no long goodbye message, no last attempt to fix things. She went silent, and for months, nothing happened, no texts, no calls. They didn't even notice until one night, 3 months later, they showed up at her door, crying, begging, saying all the things she had once begged to hear. Why? Because they finally felt it. Not because they suddenly became a better person, not because they finally understood her pain, but because her absence forced them to sit with themselves. That's how people work. They don't feel loss in real time. They feel it in hindsight. And the longer you stay silent, the deeper that loss cuts. So stop thinking silence is weakness. Silence is strategy. When you stop talking, you break the cycle. You take away their comfort. You take away their ability to feed off your energy. Because right now they know you still care. They know that if they call, you'll answer. They know that if they text, you'll respond. They know that if they give you just enough breadcrumbs, just enough false hope, you'll stay. But the second you go silent, the second you stop reacting the way they expect, that's when they start to panic. That's when they start checking your last scene. That's when they start watching your stories. That's when they start sending weak "I miss you" texts just to see if you'll bite. And when you don't, that's when it hits. Because the truth is, they never thought they'd actually lose you. But now they don't know where they stand with you, and that uncertainty will haunt them. Because people love control. They love knowing they can come back whenever they want. But when you take away that certainty, when you become a mystery, when they don't know if you've moved on, if you've met someone else, if you even care anymore, that's when their own mind starts destroying them. That's when they start replaying every memory. That's when they start regretting every time they ignored you. That's when they start feeling everything you felt when they made you question your worth. But here's the most important part. You don't do this just to make them suffer. You do this for you, because this is your power now. This is your moment to take back control. You are not here to fix them. You are not here to wait for them. You are not here to teach them your worth. You are here to walk away so powerfully that they never forget what they lost. And by the time they realize it, it will be too late. And trust me, they will feel every second of it. Number 4, erase them like they never existed. You say you're done, you say you're moving on, but are you? Because you're still checking their Instagram, still stalking their last scene, still hoping they'll watch your stories, as if that somehow proves they miss you. That's not moving on. That's self-torture. Every time you scroll through their pictures, every time you reread old messages, every time you search for a sign that they regret losing you, you are keeping them alive in your mind, feeding the very pain you claim you want to escape. And let's be honest, what exactly are you looking for? Proof that they're suffering? Proof that they're miserable without you? Proof that they finally realize what they lost? Let me tell you something you don't want to hear. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if they're out partying. It doesn't matter if they've moved on to someone new. It doesn't matter if they're pretending to be happy or if they actually are. Because none of it is your business anymore. None of it has anything to do with you. So why are you still making space in your mind for someone who never made space for you? Why are you still carrying around the weight of someone who dropped you without hesitation? You don't heal by keeping tabs on the very thing that broke you. You don't move on by lurking in the shadows, waiting for a sign that they regret what they did. You move on by disappearing completely. No breadcrumbs, no one last look, no maybe just this time. You vanish like you never existed in their world, because from this moment on, they don't exist in yours. And before you try to convince yourself that blocking them is childish, let me stop you right there. Blocking them isn't immature. Blocking them is closing the door permanently. It's refusing to leave even a crack open for them to slip back in when they get bored. And no, you don't just block their number, you block their social media, their email, their fake accounts, everything. Because as long as there's a way for them to reach you, you're still giving them power. And as long as you can check up on them, you're keeping yourself trapped. And don't you dare tell yourself, but what if they need to reach me for something important? They won't. And even if they did, they'd find a way. But most of the time when an ex reaches out, it's not because they miss you, it's because they miss the control. So cut them off for real and stop talking about them. Every time you bring them up to your friends, you are keeping them alive in your energy. Every time you ask, do you think they miss me? You're keeping yourself stuck. I get it. You need to vent. You need support. But there's a difference between venting and reliving the pain over and over again. Your friends are tired of hearing about them, and deep down, you're tired too. And before you say, but I just need closure, I just need to understand why they did what they did, let me stop you right there. Closure is not something they can give you. Closure is something you give yourself, and you will never find it by reopening a wound that was already killing you. So now take every ounce of energy you wasted on them and pour it back into you. Because while you've been sitting there wondering what they're doing, if they're thinking about you, if they have any regrets, tell me, who's been thinking about you? Who's been worrying about your happiness? Because it's sure as hell not them. They're not waking up wondering how you're doing. They're not replaying memories the way you are. They're not analyzing your messages, trying to decode hidden meanings. So why are you? It's time to stop making them the main character in a story that was always supposed to be about you. When you delete an app from your phone, you don't keep checking to see if it's still working. When you cancel a subscription, you don't sit around wondering what they're doing without you. So why are you treating them any differently? They are expired. Their time in your life is over. And if you keep checking, if you keep hoping, if you keep waiting for them to wake up and realize what they lost, you are the one keeping yourself stuck. Because here's the truth, they already know what they lost. But as long as you're still watching them, still waiting, still searching for proof of their regret, they don't have to feel it. So stop. Stop waiting. Stop watching. Stop keeping them alive in your mind. They are nothing now, and you are finally free. Number 5. Rise so high they can never reach you again. Let's be brutally honest. When was the last time you focused on you? Not them, not what they're doing, not whether they regret losing you. When was the last time you woke up and thought, how can I make my life better today? Instead of waking up and wondering if they checked your stories, because let's be real, you spent all your time, all your energy, all your love focusing on them. And what did it get you? Tears, exhaustion, sleepless nights. While they were out living their life, you were losing yourself in someone who was never even thinking about you. You sacrificed your peace for someone who never once lost sleep over you. And now you're waiting for them to wake up, waiting for them to realize your worth, waiting for some grand moment where they come crawling back, telling you they finally understand what they lost. But why are you waiting for them to realize your worth when you haven't even realized it yourself? Because if you did, if you truly understood your value, you wouldn't be waiting, you'd be rising. And that's exactly what you're going to do, starting now. There was someone who shared their story online. They spent years in a toxic relationship, always giving, always forgiving, always proving their love. And when it ended, they were shattered. But instead of waiting for their ex to come back, Instead of sitting in bed crying over someone who had already moved on, they did something else. They hit the gym hard. They started working out, sculpting themselves into something even they didn't recognize. They started a business, took all the energy they used to waste on their ex and turned it into power. They changed their look, new hair, new style, new energy. And 6 months later, they walked into an event, and their ex was there. The second their ex saw them, everything changed. Panic, regret, shock. Because the person standing in front of them wasn't the same heartbroken soul they left behind. They weren't the desperate one who cried over their silence. They weren't the weak, overgiving person they thought they could always come back to. They were a force, untouchable, a version so elevated that their ex could never reach them again. And by the time the regret hit, it didn't even matter. That's the level you're about to reach. Not just so they regret losing you, but so you never even think about them again. Because the best revenge isn't moving on. The best revenge is rising so high that they can never reach you again. Be like a stock that skyrockets after someone sells it. You ever hear about those people who sell a stock too early? They think, hey, this isn't worth much, so they let it go. Then, a year later, that same stock is worth millions, and now they're kicking themselves, wishing they had held on. That's exactly who you're about to become. Right now they think they let you go, and maybe, just maybe, they don't feel it yet because they think you'll always be the same. But when you glow up, when you level up your life, your mind, your entire presence, they are going to see you one day and realize they lost something they can never get back. And that moment, that's when it hits. Because nothing haunts someone more than watching the person they took for granted become someone they could never have again. At some point, they're going to see the change. Maybe they'll stumble across a picture of you. Maybe they'll hear about you through mutual friends. Maybe one day they'll run into you and realize they made the biggest mistake of their life. And in that moment, they'll want you back. But you won't even flinch. Because by the time they realize what they lost, you will have already outgrown them. Number 6, let the silence destroy them. You think they're not thinking about you? You think they've moved on? You think they're out there living their best life, completely unbothered, while you sit here heartbroken? In the beginning, that's exactly what it looks like. At first, they won't care. They'll act like losing you was no big deal, like life without you is just fine. And you'll see things that will break you. They'll be out, smiling, posting pictures, looking happier than ever. And that's where most people make the mistake. They see them looking unbothered, and they panic. They think, oh my God, they're fine without me, they don't care. Maybe I should reach out. Maybe I should remind them of what we had. Maybe they just need a little push to realize what they lost. Stop. That's the trap. That's what keeps you stuck in a cycle of heartbreak. Because let me tell you something. People don't process loss the way you do. You feel it immediately, the second they pull away. You feel it in your bones. That's why you cry. That's why you overthink. That's why it feels like you can't breathe. But them, they don't feel it yet because they still think they can come back whenever they want. They believe you'll always be there. So of course, they look fine. They still think you're an option. But then something shifts. They start to notice your absence. Not just in obvious ways, but in the energy. They feel it when they open their phone and see nothing from you. No texts, no missed calls, no little reminders that you're still thinking about them. At first, they assume you're just upset. They tell themselves they'll come back when they cool off. But as time goes on, they notice the silence. And that's when they start watching. They're not liking, they're not commenting, but they are checking. They're looking to see if you're posting sad quotes. They're checking if you're still in your feelings. They're looking for proof that you still love them, that you're still the same person who would never let them go. And when they don't see what they expect, that's when the panic sets in. Because now they don't know where they stand with you. Now they're not sure if they still have access to you. Now they're starting to feel something they never expected to feel: uncertainty. And let me tell you something, people hate uncertainty. They love control. They love knowing they can come back whenever they feel like it. But now they don't know. So what do? They test the waters with a weak, pathetic little text. "Hey, hope you're doing okay. Just wanted to check in." Not because they miss you, not because they realize your worth, but because they need to know if they still have control. They're not asking to see you. They're not apologizing. They're not making an effort. They just want to see if you'll break. And this moment defines everything. Because if you respond, if you entertain their breadcrumbs, if you give them even 1 second of your attention, you lose. Because now they're comfortable again. Now they know, oh, they're still there. I still have them. And guess what? They disappear again. So do not reply. Do not entertain their breadcrumbs. Do not break your silence. They need to feel the full weight of their actions. They need to feel what it's like to lose you for real. Because a starving person doesn't crave food until they feel hunger. Let them starve. Let them feel the void you left behind. Let them sit in the silence. Let them experience what it's like to reach for you and feel nothing. Because the longer they sit in that discomfort, the deeper their regret will become. But more importantly, the longer you stay silent, the stronger you become. You start to notice something. You wake up one day and realize you don't care as much. You don't feel the urge to check on them. You don't feel the need to break your silence just to prove something. Because suddenly, you feel lighter. Suddenly, you realize you were never losing them. They were losing you. And by the time they realize it, it will be too late. Number 7. When they come back, you've already moved on. You wanted them so badly before. You cried over them. You would have done anything to make them stay. And now they're crawling back. And guess what? You don't even want them anymore. Because you're not the same person they left behind. That version of you, the one who begged, who waited, who stayed up at night wondering if they were enough, that person doesn't exist anymore. And now here they come, pathetic, desperate, confused, acting like they've had some grand epiphany, acting like they just woke up and realized you were the best thing that ever happened to them. Oh, now they see it, now that you're gone. No, my dear, they don't miss you. They miss the control. They miss knowing that whenever they felt lonely, whenever they needed a boost, whenever they wanted comfort, you were there. They miss the security of knowing you were always an option. But now they feel the emptiness. Now they realize they pushed you too far. Now they understand that you weren't playing games, that this time you were done for real. And let me tell you something, a person never truly regrets losing you until they know they can never have you again. It's funny, isn't it? They never appreciated you when you were there, but the second you're untouchable, suddenly they realize your worth. Suddenly they want you back. Suddenly they remember all the good times, all the ways you made their life easier, all the love you gave so freely. But the truth is, they don't regret losing you. They regret losing access to you. They don't miss the relationship. They miss the comfort you provided. They miss the version of you that tolerated their nonsense, the version that forgave without hesitation, the version that made excuses for them. But that version of you is gone. So what do you do now? You ignore. You move on. You keep glowing up. You let them spiral. Let them sit in the regret. Let them feel the weight of every single time they made you feel small. Let them realize too late that they were the ones who lost you. And if they beg, if they come back with some weak excuse, with some half-hearted apology, with some "I've changed" speech, you laugh, you walk away. Not because you're bitter, not because you want revenge, but because you don't go backward. When you finish a book, you don't go back and rewrite the bad chapters. You start a new book, and that's exactly what you're doing. Because this was never about revenge. This was about finally respecting yourself. If they didn't see your worth when you were giving them everything, they don't deserve a second chance now that you've taken it away. You see, the moment you stop chasing, the moment you stop waiting, the moment you remove yourself, that's the moment you become the prize. And by the time they realize it, you won't even care. Number 8. By the time they realize you're gone, there was a time when you would have done anything to keep them. A time when you cried over them, when you lost sleep wondering what you did wrong, when you would have bent over backward just for a little bit of their attention. But now they're coming back, and the strangest thing has happened. You don't even want them anymore, because the person they left behind no longer exists. The one who begged, who waited, who accepted their half-hearted love, who made excuses for their neglect, that person is gone. And now here they come, acting like they've had some great awakening, like they've suddenly realized what a mistake they made, like they've finally seen what they lost. Oh, now they get it, now that you're gone. But let's be clear, they don't miss you. They miss the power they had over you. They miss the certainty that no matter what they did, you would always be there. They miss the security of knowing they could go off, do whatever they wanted, and still have you as a backup plan. But now that safety net is gone, now they feel the void because they thought they could always come back. They thought you would always be an option. But something changed, didn't it? You stopped waiting, you stopped caring, and the second they felt that shift, the moment they sensed that you were slipping away for real, that's when the panic set in. And let me tell you something. People don't fear losing you when you're still within reach. They fear it when they finally understand they can never have you again. So now they're scrambling, sending "Hey, I miss you" texts, watching your stories but never saying anything, trying to slip back into your life like nothing ever happened. But deep down, they know they messed up. They know you're not the same person who used to drop everything for them. And that uncertainty eats them alive. So what do you do now? Nothing. You keep moving forward. You keep glowing up. You let them sit in their regret. Let them feel the full weight of every time they made you question your worth. And if they come back hoping for another chance, you don't even look twice. Not because you're bitter, not because you want revenge, but because you don't go backward. When you walk out of a burning building, you don't turn around and run back inside just because you finally hear someone calling your name. You keep walking. You save yourself. And that's exactly what you're doing. Because if they didn't value you when you were giving them everything, they don't deserve another chance now that you've taken it away. And by the time they truly realize what they lost, you'll be too far ahead for it to even matter.